praten niet. Nu ben ik daar waar die flex is. Ik ben op stroom, niet op Netflix. Zij is in love met mijn adlib. Met de gang en we staan niet op.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. So this is the last session of Fuel for this year. I hope everyone had a productive break, did some networking, got what they needed to done. And before we kick things off, again, just another huge shout out to our sponsor, Slalom. If you missed their hackathon presentation earlier, make sure you check out the recording. All sessions recordings will be available next week. So in this hour, we're going to hear from 5 up-and-coming climate startups that are using technology and ingenuity to solve massive challenges and create resilient communities. Climate change is obviously a huge problem, and we need solutions from everywhere. So these companies represent technologies from across various sectors and really show the breadth of solutions being generated today. After each company pitch, we have 3 investors with us today that will ask the company 2 questions. So I'm excited to introduce you to those investors. First up, we have Taj Ahmad Eldridge from Include Venture Partners. Hello, Taj. Thanks for being here. And joining him, we have Judy Lee from Energy Foundry. And then last but not least, we are also joined by Heath Morrison from BP Ventures. So welcome, all of you, and thanks for being here with us today. So let's get started. First up, we have Community Energy Labs.
At Community Energy Labs, we're helping commercial building owners simply and affordably save up to 25% on energy costs and reduce carbon emissions with the first truly scalable, AI-powered clean building control system. I'm Tanya Barham. Communities worldwide are pushing buildings to convert to electric, operate efficiently, and consume power when renewables are making it, and this is a tough problem. This blue curve is when and how much energy a building is using. The icons are systems that drive energy use. Throughout the day, energy consumption changes. AC comes on, water heats, cars charge. Climate laws try to get a building's energy load shape to line up with this green line that represents when renewables, in this case solar, are making power. Any energy use that falls under this curve can be met by solar, and in the next few years, any energy use outside of this curve could cost commercial customers as much as 4 times more on energy used at these times. We address the underserved public, municipal, university, and schools, or MUSH market. Nearly 100 customer interviews revealed that even with nearly 1/3 of the commercial floor space in the US, this market is not ready to handle the increasingly complex building performance and energy costs coming down the pike. You might think this market is too crowded, but nearly everyone is focused on serving private commercial companies. Lawrence Berkeley National Labs estimates MUSH customers already spend more than $2 billion annually on half-baked energy solutions, but are an untapped market of $104 billion, provided that solutions are tailored to their specific needs. Other building automation players typically focus on utility programs, large commercial customers, or mid-sized retail. We know that MUSH building owners have different value propositions, operations, and purchasing behaviors than private customers, and we're building a solution that meets their needs for quick savings and low hassle. If you're a California school superintendent, you might be spending $3 million per year on energy, but building automation bundled with equipment upgrades could cost millions up front, require you pass a bond measure, disrupts your ability to use the space, and takes years to pay back. CEL is an IoT and software as a service control platform that offers quicker energy savings with low upfront cost. A school spending $3 million on energy would pay around $6,000 for a one-time, one-day install to retrofit new or existing equipment with sensors and controllers. Once installed, CEL charges a fee to monitor, predict, and control energy using machine learning. With average savings of 5 to 25%, your local school would pay back its investment in under 2 months. Our algorithm orchestrates equipment in real time, based on a building owner's preferences and goals, like saving money. Our AI generates a model of how the building should optimally run based on the physical structure of the building, user inputs, and data-derived insights into how a building, equipment, and occupants interact, while also responding to grid or energy pricing signals. In a similar way to how Snapchat bunny ears follow a human face, our model predictive control operates the building equipment as close as possible to the optimum and in doing so saves end users from having to manually adjust building and equipment operation, and that saves time and money. Our extensive work with and sympathy for this segment's struggle to affordably decarbonize sets our team apart in mid-sized municipal markets with aggressive building codes. We have decades of experience scaling software, AI, wireless systems for energy innovations in the middle market. We've commercialized a national solar schools program, HVAC optimization software, and microgrid controls from R&D to global scale for startups and companies as large as SoCal Edison. Our advisors represent a diverse set of industry leaders, and our beachhead is K-12 schools subject to aggressive building energy codes. This beachhead alone gets us to $164 million in annual recurring revenue. How? By establishing scalability among more than 13,000 schools in California, Oregon, and Washington facing building codes that levy penalties for noncompliance by 2026. Once established in this sector, we intend to expand to municipal and other adjacent commercial segments like community colleges, universities, and churches. Specifically, our first two pilots with California and Washington energy providers reach nearly 677 school and commercial customers. 677 customers with an average square footage of 200,000 square feet generates $8.1 million in ARR. Expanding to capture this beachhead puts our top line over $100 million in ARR. We estimate having a gross profit margin of 70 to 80% per building. We're on track to meet our goals, having established relationships with 8 energy companies and nearly 30 school districts in under a year. Software and machine learning have revolutionized nearly every aspect of our lives. Join us in harnessing their power for good in the fight against climate change. And thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, so we're about to be joined by Tanya from Community Energy Labs. Welcome. And I'm going to pass off to the investors. I believe, Taj, you're up. Go ahead and take it away.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. And Tanya, great presentation. I really appreciate that. As a husband of a school administrator, I could definitely see the need for it. What's been some of the pushback from especially the MUSH, and we'll focus on the kind of the K-12 or the university settings, but what's been some of the pushback from them as potential clients?
Oh, that's a great question. But I think that's actually the first time I've received that question. I think bandwidth is the biggest problem, and it's one of the things that we're actively working to address through our interfaces. A lot of times the people who are managing energy, even for a significant sized school district, might also be janitorial or maintenance staff. They might be raking mulch. So bandwidth and making sure our user interfaces are as user-friendly as possible. There was one school district where we saw their existing building management system. It was literally on a desktop that he had to access in a networking closet and just covered in dust. So it was really inconvenient for him to use. And also a lot of these programs just kick out alerts and they're constantly pinging. So they have ping fatigue. So I think our biggest objection is bandwidth of the end user. The administrator gets it, the school gets it, but making sure that end user can implement it. And we've been working, that's why we worked so extensively on 100 customer validation surveys. And right now we're doing several in-depth user experience pilots with school districts throughout the West Coast to address that pushback. So thanks for that question.
Great, thank you, Tanya, I appreciate that.
Great. All right, Judy, you're up.
Great. Hello, everybody. And hi, Tanya again.
Hey, Judy.
Hi. So my question is about this, this market and the sales process into it. So I've seen a lot of companies, as you said, in the targeting other kinds of customers, the private commercial buildings, and even those companies, one can argue they have a hard time finding a repeatable, scalable sales model in order to actually make sales to more and more buildings. And so this is interesting that you found a market that seems to be underserved by these kinds of technologies, but I don't know what the answer is in terms of the sales strategy to scale and achieve, 600 plus customers. And so what have you found to be a successful sales strategy that can also be scalable?
Well, I think it's a really real concern. I'll be honest, it's a real concern with us too. Scale and the speed to scale is always a big question, but I will say that these municipal markets, I've been working in them for 20 years in various capacities as an entrepreneur. I was the founder of the Solar for Our Schools program through Bonneville Environmental Foundation, which exists today and is a partner of ours and a grantor to us. And also I ran the Air Care Plus program, which you worked with small to mid-sized commercial customers on HVAC optimization software. And we work through channel partners like HVAC and mechanical contractors. So those are some of the same channels that we're working with now. So right now, many of our channels are, we're partnering with utilities and the Department of Energy to reach out to schools, to do early pilots, to build those relationships and to prove out the technology through programs like Cal Testbed, our Department of Energy SBIR, our partnership with Silicon Valley Clean Energy, and about 5 large investor-owned utilities throughout the United States through the Electric Power Research Institute. What I found in the schools, in particular K through 12, is that once you prove out a technology, they're not early adopters. And a lot of folks go after early adopters when they have a new tech. If you can survive these early programs and prove that your solution works in a couple different schools, a couple different climate zones, they don't have a lot of time. So often there's a very follow the leader mentality, which saves them time. They wait until something's proven out. When one of the leaders proves it out, a lot of people adopt it. So for example, when we see building management systems, we see far less variability than you would imagine in other commercial contexts. Everybody's using the Allerton Compass system, for example. So we believe that as an early adopter, working through our relationships, doing a grant program with our utility customers like I did with the Solar for Our Schools program at its inception, and working through channel partners like mechanical contractors and controls providers as we're doing that hard work that no one else wants to do, where it takes a little longer. We haven't taken on dilutive capital for that reason, because we know that we need to build those relationships. Once we prove it out, we believe that we'll have very quick traction. And we've certainly seen that once the pilots get going, other school districts are interested in trying it out themselves. So then it becomes an issue of, can we staff up and build the capacity to actually execute once the interest is there? But I think that what you raise is a very valid concern. And it's one that we feel that we have a really great moat around because of our relationships and our experience in the vertical. We know how to cross that moat. But once we're there, very few people will be able to successfully enter. So we think it's an advantage that we have as a company.
Great. Thank you so much, Tanya, once again for your presentation.
Thanks for those questions.
Up next, we are going to hear from Hempatecture.
Hey everybody, my name is Matthew Mead and I am the founder and CEO of Hempatecture. We're a public benefit corporation that specializes in what we believe are the most truly sustainable building materials on the planet. In short, we're a materials startup and we specialize in high performance sustainable building products to help save energy and reduce the embodied carbon in the built environment. We recognize a problem that buildings and their operations are responsible for about 40% of our domestic energy consumption and about 40% of our carbon footprint. By utilizing plant-based, rapidly renewable feedstocks for insulation, which helps save energy, we're able to lower the embodied carbon in our built environment and offset and store this carbon dioxide in a long-lasting building material. Our material feedstock, industrial hemp, offsets about 9.8 tons of CO2 per acre. We truly believe that a healthier home means happier people and therefore a more sustainable planet. Our flagship product is hemp wool insulation. Hemp wool is a one-to-one product substitution used anywhere that fiberglass, rock wool, or spray foam can be used. Making the choice to use hemp wool as simple as saying, I want to use a healthy, non-toxic alternative to fiberglass, or spray foam, or rock wool for that matter. It simply is installed in between studs and works in commercial and residential building projects. Our product is really competitive with the other products that are out there in terms of our value, but what these other products don't have is the health benefits as well as the embodied carbon benefits. And while we're really focused on the built environment, we also recognize that our material and the manufacturing process that I'm soon to explain can also help create other building materials or materials outside of the building industry. Take, for instance, the cold freight shipping industry. Have you ever ordered Blue Apron or Sunbasket? Well, we now have an insulation product that can go into those boxes that helps reduce the use of plastic or foam-based insulation in those disposable shipping units for the cold freight industry. We're at a really exciting time right now in Hempatecture. We have raised $3.5 million via Reg CF offering, and we're bridging the gap between agricultural fiber and unique manufacturing technology. In fact, we're building a manufacturing facility in southern Idaho as we speak. This manufacturing facility is going to be capable of producing our hemp wool insulation as well as a number of other products. When we talk about our product roadmap, hemp wool really is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of other products that we're soon to be working on and developing through our partnerships with groups like the Building Technologies Office, the Department of Energy, and through a research grant funded by the Idaho Department of Commerce that's allowing us to work with the University of Idaho. Once we have our facility up and running, our distribution strategy is quite simple. Sell to some of the biggest modular manufacturers in the United States who would make up probably a pretty large portion of our business, about 60% of our business. Some of the other business that we'll have is selling B2B for these toll manufacturing relationships. Think back to that insulation insert for Blue Apron and Sunbasket. Our facility is regionally strategically located. It's south of where all of our raw materials are grown, meaning the industrial hemp grown in Montana, Alberta, British Columbia, Oregon, and Washington. We collect that material, we convert it into a value-added product, and we sell it direct to our business partners. We've also created a B2C platform on our website called buy.hempatecture.com. You can log on, enter your square footage that you're trying to insulate, and it actually connects you with a shipping and trucking provider, and you get a quote for a pallet or 2 or 3, however much insulation you need, shipped directly to your door. Now, over the last few years in specializing in hemp wool and scaling up our sales, we've seen 2.5 year-over-year growth, and we're expected to eclipse over $1 million in total revenue this year. None of this, though, happens without a great team, and we have a great team behind us. My name is Matthew Mead. I'm the founder and CEO of Hempatecture, but I'm joined by my co-founder and COO, Tommy Gibbons. We actually went to high school together many, many years ago. We have a team of now 4 people and growing, with advisors ranging from experience in the Department of Energy to PhDs in textile engineering to former heads of sales at a very significant building materials company. So thank you, everyone, for taking the time today to listen to our pitch. We're really excited about where this is going and where we could be in 10 years. We view ultimately an exit by acquisition, most likely through a company like Knopf, Rockwell, Johns Manville, or Owen Corning. Thank you for your time today, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.
All right, welcome, Matthew. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for that presentation. So I'm going to pass off again to Taj and Judy.
Judy,
you want to go first? I can go.
Sure, I can go. Hi, Matt. Thanks for the presentation.
Hi, Judy. Thank you.
I actually really enjoyed seeing the product be like rolling out of the manufacturing line. That was really neat, and I'm glad that you're at that stage. One thing that we always get tripped up on when we look at new materials that are going to go into buildings or even food distribution related products is the number of certifications that a new material has to be approved for in order to be used in those kinds of applications. And that might take time, that might take money. How have you found the process of getting your material approved for building and these food packaging related use cases?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Judy, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. There are a lot of steps that we have to go to get this product to market once we have our facility up and running. The low-hanging fruit, and really the most important element for us of certification, is going through ASTM standards. We already have a list of the ASTM standards in which we need to check off. And through our partnership with the Building Technologies Office and the Department of Energy, we're going to get a head start on that process. We're beginning that fellowship now, or actually it's been underway for a little while now. And we're also working with the University of Idaho to accelerate the research to accumulate the data that we need to then proceed to these next steps. So first off is ASTM, then we have other certifications which we consider almost more value added, perhaps cradle to cradle, LEED certification, getting an environmental product declaration, life cycle analysis. We do understand that these things take time. However, with our toll manufacturing partnerships that we have in place, particularly for the shipping industry, it's a lot less regulated than the building materials industry. So if there was any lag time between the date of our facility commissioning and having our products approved on an ASTM level, we already have a business base to sell that product into.
Great. Great. Thank you, Judy. Matt, and I'm here smiling because a number of years ago, I was the accelerator director at the University of California, Riverside, and we had a number of companies building hempcrete and other type of building products out of hemp, and we had the hardest time finding investors. And I'm glad now that things have changed, and that I'm really excited that you guys have raised a good amount. One of my questions, and we went through this with the last company that was working on hempcrete there, was, we were talking about cost is a really, really important part of it. And I know you mentioned, and I love the fact that you mentioned that the toxicity for the existing materials is one of the considerations. But two questions. Number one, do you think that's something that's public enough or public knowledge enough for people who want to make the change, knowing that the differences between it? And then number two, the cost differential. What's the cost differential between what you're building with hemp and what's already existing out there as well? Because I know that costs, I'm an economist by trade, sometimes cost really kind of makes decisions happen more than anything else, unfortunately, in our country.
Yeah, great question, Taj. And I'm glad that you brought up hempcrete. And I think it's just important referencing that Hempatecture actually began with a focus on hempcrete. We built a number of hempcrete projects across the United States. We built the first commercial hempcrete building in the United States, the first panelized hempcrete building in North America, and the first spray applied hempcrete building in North America. And it was our experience in working with this relatively niche and bespoke building material that brought us to hemp wool. We realized, hey, hempcrete's a great material. It's a carbon capturing solution for the built environment, but it takes a different approach to building. It reorients the order of operations in a building, and that makes it a difficult sell. Then you also have the building material standards element for hempcrete, and with it being generally a cast on-site product, very difficult to get that accepted across the board. So that brought us to hemp wool today. And of course, right now with hemp wool being a new product, there is a price premium. I think customers are very concerned with the bottom line. What does this material cost? And right now we're about twice the cost of fiberglass. We view a more apt comparison to be rock wool. Rock wool is really similar in its form. However, rock wool has a very high embodied energy, and we're only about 50% more expensive than rock wool. We are importing a product that we've trademarked and labeled as hemp wool to show that there's market demand for this product in the United States. And we're shifting to American manufacturing to lower that unit cost of hemp wool to be more price comparable to rock wool. Now, in terms of the other benefits, there is a carbon benefit that is hard to quantify in terms of dollars right now, but I think we're getting close to quantify that benefit. So that's how we're currently presenting this to customers and clients.
Awesome, thank you. Great stuff on it. And thank you for that journey from hempcrete to hemp wool. Appreciate that.
Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate that. Very interesting. New to me. So up next, we have Dexter from OpConnect. They're going to go ahead and run their video.
Hi, I'm Dexter Turner. I'm the co-founder and CEO of OpConnect, and I'm coming to you from our new headquarters in Southeast Portland, where we're actually allowed to bring EVs inside of our building for testing and R&D. At OpConnect, we are on a mission. If you look at the deployment of electric vehicles and the projections of the deployment of the EV charging infrastructure, there is a significant shortfall in chargers versus the need. And at OpConnect, we are deploying technology to close that shortfall. Our solutions fall into two major buckets: technology that helps minimize the operating costs, like for example, our unique Bluetooth charging station, which instead of relying on Wi-Fi or cellular connectivity, makes a Bluetooth connection to the driver's cell phone and then rides off the driver's cell connectivity. This solution works in underground parking garages without the need for the customer to have to spend additional money to bring Wi-Fi or cellular or Ethernet down to the charging station, giving us a significant advantage in multifamily properties. We also have technology that maximizes our customers' return on investment by enabling them to integrate with renewables on site and battery storage to provide the lowest cost charging solution out there. Our vision at scale is to enable EVs to be part of a distributed energy system. We see EVs combined with vehicle-to-grid, microgrid infrastructure, on-site renewables, and on-site batteries as being part of a system that will allow drivers and fleets to charge their vehicles most efficiently at the lowest cost while protecting the grid and giving us resiliency. We divide the total market for EV charging into the following segments. For passenger vehicles, 80% of charging happens where we live. So the biggest segment is single-family homes. But in America, 40% of us or more live in apartments or condominiums. So the next biggest segment is multifamily homes. And then we have fleets. Those can be anything from government fleets to private commercial fleets. And then we have workplace charging. And then finally, public charging, whether it's public level 2 charging or public DC fast charging. At OpConnect, our focus is on multifamily homes, fleets, and workplaces, with a special emphasis on fleets, especially school bus charging. At OpConnect, we do not own and operate our charging infrastructure, like Tesla, for example. We sell charging stations for 25 to 40% margin, and then we have the purchaser enter into an operating agreement with a 5-year initial term and 2 5-year automatic renewals for a total 15-year operating agreement. Once the charging station is installed, we generate recurring revenue from 3 sources right now. The first one is what we call the cloud network fee. Think of it as an operation fee paid by the port owner to have the charger connected to our platform so that we can control the flow of the energy and we can collect any revenue and get maintenance tickets, for example, for the charging station to keep it operating. Speaking of maintenance, we also sell a maintenance plan, and we subcontract out the maintenance to third-party providers. And then finally, if the charging station generates recurring revenue, we take a 10 to 20% share of that revenue. These are very high margin revenue streams, an average margin of 87%, and it's a very sticky customer base. Since our founding in 2012, we have less than a 1% churn rate from our existing customer base. I feel that we are putting together the team to recognize our vision of deploying these chargers at scale. We're building one of the most diverse teams in the industry and having a combination of technical experts from inside of our industry to technical experts from industries such as artificial intelligence to help us optimize the charging as we continue to scale our business. So that's the OpConnect story, and we invite you to come grow with us. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Dexter, and welcome to the panel. I assume you'll pop up in a minute. There we go. So I am going to hand off. First up, we have Heath.
Hey there, Dexter. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, and I see you too, Heath.
I'm gratified to see how well you guys have been doing and all of the integration work that you've been doing. Looks like it's a good marriage between some of the products and the need out there in the market. I was curious as in terms of the tech development path with the school buses, especially, but with other vehicle platforms. I was just wondering, is this going to take a significant amount of time in terms of technical development to make sure that integration with the charging infrastructure that's needed, and also with the customer type for things like school buses and fleets, aligns with what you've already developed in terms of individual charging for, say, hotels that you had initially talked about? Is there a path to development for integrating with these folks, or has that already been developed?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned integration because, we've come to think that systems integration is the one thing we do the best at OpConnect, and it's everything from integrating different charger hardware onto our software platform. But then also what we're really getting into now is integrating with vehicle telematics systems, integrating with fleet management software platforms. Fortunately, we had pivoted the company a couple of years ago and really pivoted out so much of the public charging, like at hotels, shopping malls, and other retail locations and things like that, and really started to focus more on fleets and multifamily. So that integration with the telematics fleet management was kind of already built into our roadmap. We think we've got a great technology path ahead of us that's now enabling us. What we're rolling out now is AI-led charging. So the idea is, now that we're integrated with like a Geotab fleet management system, for example, we know exactly how the route that the vehicle needs to drive for its next drive cycle. We know its current battery state of charge. We've got the historical data on how much charge it's used to do that route. So we can do a much smarter job of charging that vehicle and minimizing the cost for the fleet operator.
Great, thank you.
I'll go next. Dexter, good to see you. It was funny. I was trying to remember where I remember the company. Then I remember Ed. Ed said this to me a while back. So it was good to see this as well.
And it's funny, I talked to Ed today and he actually mentioned you just this morning. So small world.
Yeah, absolutely. Ed's a good guy. And I'm really excited and happy that you talked about this whole idea between public charging, which I think is needed, but also multifamily, because we know a large majority of our country, both young, people of color, many different things, live in apartments and multifamily units. And I think that that's going to really help with adoption for this and really democratize this idea of innovation on electric vehicles. What's been some pushbacks that you've been having from building owners for multifamily specifically? Because I know, I'm very bullish on that. I think that's going to be the future. We have companies like Envoy that work already in apartment buildings and things of that nature. But what's been kind of the pushback from multifamily owners about installing this service?
Yeah, the two biggest pushbacks we get is the upfront capital that's required to put the charging stations in, and a potential long payback. If it's an older property, a lot of times there needs to be some electrical upgrades to put it in, which really increases the payback period. And for that, there really needs to be some type of support, either in the form of rebates, grants, or something to help the multifamily property pay for that. And at OpConnect, we're actually pursuing a program with the DOE that we're hoping is going to provide a lot of financial incentives for us to help in multifamily properties. And I have a personal goal that I want to see at least a third of those incentives go to low income communities that I think are really they're going to be the last ones to benefit from this technology. And then the second pushback we get is just giving up the parking spaces to have a dedicated parking space for people to charge. It's a huge problem in condominiums where all the parking spaces may be deeded to the owners of the condominium. So we've actually come up with a specific program for condo owners to own their own charging station in their own space.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Dexter.
Great, thank you all so much. Up next, we have a presentation from Chapul Farms. Go ahead and take it away.
Hello, this is Pat Crowley with Chapul Farms. I started Chapul 9 years ago as one of the pioneers in the insect protein industry with a market-driven approach to scaling the sector. I think the insects have some of the greatest potential of addressing some of the massive challenges in front of our food and agricultural landscape. and more broadly represent an enormous leap forward towards symbiosis between human infrastructure and the biological systems on planet Earth. Insects address two of the largest challenges our planet faces. The first is food waste, with an estimated 60 million tons of waste ending up in landfills every year in the United States alone. Project Drawdown has identified eliminating food waste from landfills as the #1 most actionable item to address climate change. On the other side, we have an unsustainable global food system that is rapidly depleting finite resources and very fragile in the face of a changing climate. Enter insects, and in our case, the mighty black soldier fly larva. The biodiverse circular agriculture model, resilient to a changing climate solution that we've all been waiting for. Yay! At Chippewa Farms, we build and scale modular insect farms to be the integrator between organic waste and sustainable food production. So this is our farm in the center, and the icon in the upper left represents the food waste that we use to feed the insects. Half of all the plant matter that we harvest for agriculture isn't even edible by humans, but it is for insects. But rather than bring that waste to the insects, we bring the insects to the waste. Like this. This pile comes from a food production facility that produces hundreds of tons of organic waste every single day, which is often landfilled or even incinerated in some cases. We've recently partnered with Nexus PMG, our engineering and program management office. They've managed billions of dollars of infrastructure with our green energy, carbon mitigation, and waste energy focus. And together we're developing a growing pipeline of insect agriculture projects co-located with organic waste streams. Once the insects eat all of that waste, we're left, often in 2 weeks' time, we're left with 2 saleable products. On the bottom left, insect manure, or known as frass, a premium all-natural soil fertilizer. And on the bottom right, the insects themselves, which sell as fat and protein into animal feed markets. There's currently estimated to only be about 10 to 20,000 tons of insect protein produced annually today. And estimates suggest that this number will increase to 500,000 tons per year in as little as 8 years. The primary markets to support this growth are pet food and aquaculture. Aquaculture alone is the fastest growing food production system on the planet, but it is desperate for feed alternatives. In the US alone, we have billions of dollars dedicated to aquaculture infrastructure projects, but the largest aquafeed players are making public statements that there just isn't enough feed to support this growth. And those same players are making statements that insects are one of, if not the most promising protein alternative because of their sustainability. They increase animal health and welfare and their ability to scale. We've seen an exponential increase in investment to support the supply chain into insect agriculture, with almost $500 million coming in 2020. And in order to get to that 500,000 tons per year, there's an estimated need for more than $5 billion of investment over the next 8 years. Our business model is to help facilitate those investments into the supply chain. We are a full system solution to insect agriculture infrastructure projects. And as project developers, we wear many hats. We build and design the actual facility with Nexus PMG. We are a distributor of frass and insect protein. We have the capabilities to operate and maintain our projects. And we leverage a technology systems integration strategy to maintain our position at the front edge of a rapid innovation curve within the industry. And this provides multiple revenue streams from each of the projects that we build. While we have a growing pipeline of projects in the US and abroad, our home is in McMinnville, Oregon, in the heart of the Willamette Valley. And our lab is located on a 600-acre ranch that is home to multiple projects that showcase regenerative agriculture. Thank you very much, and feel free to reach out with any questions.
Thank you. Very cool. I had a roommate who was very into sustainable agriculture, so I'm always a fan of hearing about that. But I am going to step away and hand off to Heath for our first question.
Hi there, Pat. Good to meet you, and it's a very structure you got there. I like that you thought about the entire value chain and how you'd service that. I think that's something missing from a lot of folks in industries that are nascent. So I'm glad to see that you guys are attacking all parts of the chain. Just wondering, at scale, when you guys are able to make these farms, about what are the CapEx needs for each one of these chip pool farms? I mean, obviously they could scale, to quite large, but I'm just wondering if you're thinking of a modular type of platform, what is one module when you're building these things at scale?
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the promises of insect agriculture in particular, is its ability to scale up to industrial scale, as well as scale down all the way to smallholder farm, and have that on-farm application for many smallholder farms and a broader diversity of producers. But in terms of large scale, it's, for a project of 100 to 200 tons per day, you're looking at 100 to 200,000 square foot facility. And so I think that has been one of the limitations, is the need for upfront CapEx for newer technology, if you will. But luckily, the upside from the larva and the frass are just continuing to see the increase in valorization of those markets to support pretty attractive infrastructure returns for that investment. And so, I think we're at about a tipping point where a lot of the technology has been commercialized or demonstrated at commercial scale, to the point that technology is de-risked to support that infrastructure return profile. So I think we'll see a lot of rapid development in the industry now at scale, because of some of those, the risk profile is significantly different, even now from 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago.
Thank you.
Pat, I'm Taj. Good to meet you. It's interesting that one of the last companies was in an area that we did when I was at the University of California, and this is another. UCR is probably most known for the entomology department, which I try to stay clear of because of bugs. However, one of the things I really got and really loved that they were doing was, and this was almost a decade ago, was alternative protein, utilizing bugs for alternative protein. I noticed that that was one of the things that your company was in the beginning, the alternative protein wars with the insects that are in it, which I think it's now, when you have alternative bacon, all sort of stuff, I think it's more palatable. But what was the reason for the shift between that and to where you're doing now?
Yeah, it's always been a market-driven approach to scale the industry. Prior to that, I was working in agricultural planning and climate modeling, and looking at how to incorporate insect agriculture into the broader landscape of agriculture, certainly here in North America, but abroad as well. So use the edible insect market as a point of leverage to have a dialogue about the supply chain. And at this point, the animal feed markets are readily available at much, orders of magnitude larger in scale than edible insects. And the vast potential for that circular regenerative waste management solution is critical that we implement now, and there's an urgency associated with it. So while it's an extra trophic layer in terms of energy efficiency to go through a fish or poultry, it makes sense now to rapidly deploy this technology just in the face of the urgency we face all around us for a changing climate.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to train the animals to like the insects, so it also helps, right?
70% of a trout's diet is insects anyway, so it's a bit refreshing, to be completely honest, to be communicating with a rainbow trout.
Great, thank you so much, Pat.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Pat. Great presentation. Great to hear where your company is at. So up next, our last presenter for this session of Fuel is going to be Harvest Thermal.
Hello, I'm Jane Melia, the CEO and founder of Harvest Thermal. Harvest is disrupting the home heating industry. This is an industry that hasn't changed in decades. Our system is smarter, cheaper, and really comfortable. It's also much, much better for the planet than any other option. We have 5 systems installed, a wait list of over 300 homes, and great performance. I have assembled a team of people I have known and worked with for many years. We have a ton of experience. We took a solar concentrated company from 0 to 1.5 million units per year at high performance, quality, and reliability. We know how to do that again. Climate change is one of the biggest challenges of this century and one of the biggest business opportunities. Buildings are huge contributors to carbon emissions, responsible for about 1/3 overall. That's as much as transportation. And this is mostly due to heating and hot water. We have to transition from burning gas to heat our homes and do that without harming the electric grid and affordably for the broadest and most equitable impact. California recently became the first state in the US to pass building codes to make all electric heating and appliances the default for new homes. But they're not the only ones driving change. There is a growing movement nationally and internationally to take on this challenge. But there are a few solutions out there that meet this need, and Harvest is there to fill that gap. Harvest has developed a new approach. It provides both heat and hot water to buildings without using any gas. The system is really cost-effective to install. You can use it for new and existing homes. It reduces your bills and automatically uses electricity when it is cleanest and cheapest. Our product is the Harvest Pod, which you can see here. It's an IoT hardware and software device. It fits on the wall of your garage or in a tank closet. It contains electronic controls, equipment and software that operate your whole heating and hot water system. It runs just one heat pump to generate hot water at times when electricity is clean, cheap and abundant, stores the energy in a standard tank used as a thermal battery. And that is then delivered both for heating and hot water whenever you need it. The system works with forced air systems, radiant floor and radiators. It's smart, it anticipates your needs, so you never run out, while taking into account cost, efficiency and emissions. It is the best performing and most cost-effective electric solution out there. And this is a new area ripe for innovation, so we have been able to protect our approach by 5 patents. We're not standing still, we continue to innovate. Most of all, we have a real unfair advantage. Here are some of our pilot homes. They reduce emissions dramatically compared to gas by a factor of 10, and also compared to standard heat pumps by over a factor of 2. But our systems also reduce bills dramatically compared to both gas and electric, giving us a lower lifetime cost than both of those solutions. With the growing momentum to transition buildings from gas, we really provide the best, most compelling electric solution. You know, I said at the beginning that we are disrupting the market, but the real truth is that this is a market that's being disrupted for us by regulators, utilities, and grid operators. They have to reduce emissions, transition homes from gas, add renewables to the grid while delivering electricity reliably, and that is hard and expensive for them. And this is a problem made worse by electric solutions out there which use electricity at peak times. But Harvest helps them by using electricity in the middle of the day when it is cleanest and cheapest. Homeowners want cost-effective, comfortable, and smart solutions. While helping reduce their emissions, we deliver that, and we're getting strong traction with over 300 people on our wait list. Builders need a better product, one that keeps them ahead of regulations while capturing incentives and delivering comfortable, healthy homes. Harvest will make money 3 ways. We sell our hardware pods to builders and installers for new and existing homes. In addition, we will get recurring revenue from services such as demand response, virtual power plants to utilities. And these are smart interconnected devices, and there are opportunities to also deliver services to homeowners such as predictive maintenance and alerts. In terms of go-to-market, we have 2 parallel tracks. For the retrofit market, we are focusing on target geographies where we are building momentum with professionals and homeowners before expanding further. In parallel, we are developing a pipeline with new home builders to leverage their scale. We're already working on an initial pilot opportunity with one of the top builders in the US. And what are the alternatives? We are seeking to replace gas, and we deliver dramatically lower emissions and lower costs. We are the lowest emissions and most cost-effective electric solution out there, ready to capture the growing market of home electrification. The team is really strong, motivated, and driven. I have a PhD in fluid mechanics from Cambridge University and 20 years of business leadership experience. Evan is an expert in design and manufacturing. He's the guy who took those solar units from 0 to 1.5 million per year. Michelle has just joined the team as Chief Revenue Officer after successful roles leading sales and marketing in growing tech startups, including many with strong exits. And Dan is a leading building efficiency engineer. And we are supported by a really strong team of advisors, investors, and grant funders. So where are we today? After a series of very strong pilots, we're preparing for commercial launch later this year. Traction is huge, with a pipeline of hundreds of homes with $0 marketing spend. We have also had strong financial support in the forms of grants from energy organizations as well as private investors. Next year, we'll deploy several hundred systems and build a pipeline of hundreds more. Our first cooling system will be deployed in just a few weeks' time. Harvest is really in the right place at the right time, with a growing market, a great technology, and a highly experienced team. Thank you very much for your attention. I look forward to your questions.
All right, thank you so much for that introduction, Jane. And I'm going to leave you in the very capable hands of Judy and Heath for some questions.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jane. Great presentation. And, you know, I think about thermal energy storage, and it's definitely a concept that has been around for a while. This idea of like, why bother with electrochemical batteries where, you know, it's lithium ion batteries, like, why can't we just store the energy as heat and use the heat? Now, what is the differentiation with your system and your technology compared with some of the other thermal energy storage solutions that are out there? And how have you been able to protect it with IP?
That's a great question. Thank you, Judy. And thermal storage, indeed, I think is a great path forward for particularly for thermal loads. Electrochemical batteries are great for electric loads. If you want to go for thermal, your heating, your hot water, the most effective, safest, most durable way is figure out how do you do that with thermal storage. I think a couple of things really differentiate our system. First of all, I just want to highlight that this is thermal storage that actually is playing two roles. It's thermal storage both for your heating as well as for your hot water. So you're being able to shift the load, not just of one piece, but of the whole piece. So integrating that into one single system. One of the challenges that companies have encountered as they use thermal storage is really the ability to really accurately manage that tank as a battery. That means you need to know to a high level of accuracy what's actually inside that tank. If you measure how much hot water goes into a tank or out of the tank, you can say, hey, I know how much heat is in that tank. But unless you know whether you've got 140 degrees at the top and 60 at the bottom, or whether it's 90 degrees throughout, you have no idea how to operate your system. This team has a strong basis in fluid mechanics, in control systems, and we've really been able to protect that thermal controls using a couple of patents, really on constant calibration, and also on the ability to accurately know that state of charge at all points in time. That means that we are completely decoupling the time when the heat pump operates from the time when the thermal battery uses, which means that we can have a heat pump sized just to meet the load of the coldest day of the year, while the tank is sized to meet that load of the coldest hour. Other systems have not been able to do that and have come across lots of bumps in the road and typically have not been able to do that decoupling, otherwise they end up running out. So it really is about stratification modeling, constant calibration, and as well as the method, the system associated with that to be able to manage that really as well as you would an electrochemical battery.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, yes, thank you, Jane. I really enjoyed the presentation as well. I was curious with single family homes, especially it's a little bit more forgiving in terms of ROI, especially if you're working with a channel partner who's either building new homes or retrofitting water systems. But just wondering, with such a dramatic reduction in month-to-month cost, I think on your chart it said a 40% reduction. What is the ROI for one of your systems? And obviously right now it's going to be more expensive, but what do you anticipate at scale of production?
Yeah, the challenge, Heath, with that question is it does vary a lot by geography. It varies by your rate schedule, it varies by your climate, it varies by, obviously, the incentives and things that are put in place.
Sure.
So without incentives, what we're seeing, gas systems are extraordinarily cheap. You can go and buy a gas furnace at Home Depot for very little money. That, of course, is not taking into account the societal impact of the gas, and that's something that is progressively being integrated into rate schedules and incentives and even building codes, as we've seen in a number of locations. But without those incentives, given that we have this reduction in bills, what we're seeing is a sub 10-year payback with no incentives compared to gas. Of course, compared to heat pump systems, we're pricing the system to be at parity for installation. And therefore, because we have a lower bill, that allows us to really be competitive from day one. Of course, being, as a business person, you're going to go where there are tailwinds. And so what we're really doing is starting deploying in locations where there are significant advantages. For example, the SGIP in California, that's a $4,600 incentive for systems which have communications protocols and low GWP refrigerants such as we do, which actually substantially shortens that payback period. It doesn't make it break even from day one yet, but it does make it easier. And this ability of reducing the bills opens a door to obviously financing mechanisms behind that. We're already in discussion with one utility is looking into kind of a PACE type program, which is how can they help their ratepayers transition to this type of solution and get over that initial hurdle of the higher cost compared to gas. Because certainly this is something that utilities strongly support because we're solving their pain as well as getting homes off gas.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much to all of the companies who participated in the showcase today. It sounds like you're all doing very exciting things, and to our investors for being here and digging a little deeper. And with that, I'm going to hand off to Joe Brickman to close out the summit.
Joe, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. This is Joe Brickman. I'm Deputy Director and Director of Impact Strategy at Virtue Lab, and I've just had such a great time over the last few days. I want to thank our title sponsor, Slalom, again, and all the support we've received from Core Water, Oregon State Advantage Innovation Program, Columbia Bank, University of Oregon, Prosper Portland, Portland Seed Fund, National Energy Technology Lab, and all of our other sponsors that made this event possible. If you want to support our work, you can give a tax-deductible donation on our website, or there's going to be a link there in the chat. There it is. And just help to continue our work. The work of all these great companies here has been supported through our support programs and our fund. And in closing, I want to acknowledge the inspiration that you innovators provide to our work. Without the persistence and devotion of entrepreneurs, we couldn't see these innovations make it to the market and become real climate solutions. We are here for your success. And I want to close out our event with gratitude for you. Be well, stay safe, and thank you for being in community with us for the last 3 days.